the actual game. Our idea was to create a top-down shooter where the player has to fight through a series of enemies. So I set up a quick prototype scene and immediately got to work on creating the basic mechanics. I started with movement and making the player aim towards the mouse. I then made him shoot, added some enemies to shoot at, as well as some particles for bullets and explosions. And at this point, I was ready to put everything inside of our level. So I imported the player, added a rotating camera, and placed around a few enemies. And picking the nav mesh for this was extremely easy. I just played around with the slope and step height a bit, and the enemies were moving appropriately around the level. Of course, they currently did nothing to damage the player, so I made them shoot and stop when they got close enough. I also implemented spawning in case the player died, and made the enemies spawn randomly throughout the level at a slowly increasing rate. Finally, I made some boundaries around the level so that the player wouldn't fall off, and with that, we had a game. It's nothing fancy, but it actually plays pretty well considering how quickly we put it together, and everyone at the office had a blast playing it. So in conclusion, while we can never get the highly optimized AAA quality scans that you can with specialized equipment, Displayland actually makes it possible to start bringing the real world into your game. Personally, I just had a blast playing around with this technology. If you want to check out Displayland for yourself and make some cool looking scans, it's completely free and available on the App Store as well as Google Play.
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Were you guys able to hear the sound?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, cool. All right, so thanks. You can go back on mute. So today we're going to continue with what we've been talking about before, which is we started with a tutorial. We're not actually going to finish that tutorial. We're going to move on to another tutorial since that one was really easy. And that one was aimed at making sure you can move around in Unity. Now we're going to get a little bit more complicated. Like I said, this class is going to move really quick. So if you have any problems, things that you were trying to figure out and you can't figure them out, make sure to email me with your parents' email as well on there so that they know that you're emailing me. So we're going to get into a little bit more complex stuff than what we did the other day. So let's just get started. We're going to be following, if you can't make all the sessions or we want to get started a little early, we're going to be following a tutorial that already exists that's on Unity already. So let me open up Unity, and looks like there's some more people to let in to the room. So 1 second and let them all in. Okay, so we're going to be following a tutorial that that you probably haven't used yet. So how we're going to do that is going to click on New Project. And whenever that shows up, it's been sitting idle for a while, so I'm gonna have to restart my, oh, no, it's over here, just not paying attention. So, so we have these templates here. You can create a new project from here. Another thing you can do is just go back to the learning area. So if you're trying to figure out what you're doing, you can always go back to like the start over kind of learning area. So we're gonna do that here in a second. I'm actually gonna shut this down so that we can start from scratch.
we just do like a 3D project, nothing special other than that.
Say again, one more time.
We just do like a plain 3D project.
You could do a plain 3D project, but we're actually going to do something. We're going to follow a tutorial on purpose so you can see what some of these tutorials are like. So if you go to Learn, and we kind of went through a beginner learning session, so we're not going to do that anymore. But you can always go to these other beginner lessons, And they have an order that they want you to do them in, but we're skipping that order. We're good. You guys are smart, so we're gonna just pass over a few of the things that you normally do. And then if you wanted to know more about like specific topics, you can go here to this variables and functions and all of that stuff. We're actually going to not do that either. We're gonna go to this creator kit, and we're gonna start with a creator kit. And then after that, we're actually gonna go back to beginner code, and that's what's gonna get us into Visual Studio. So just so you know kind of where we're going, that's where we're going. And then the next week after that, we'll be going to Blender and figuring out how to add your own items to Unity, the best way to do it. And you saw that a little bit from the video that I showed. You know, I showed the gentleman doing that. Okay. Okay, so that being said, so you're gonna download the creator kit.
Excuse me?
Yep.
Which creator kit do you want us to do? There's a few. There's the one that says creator kit puzzle, RPG, FPS, and beginner code. I think it's, you clicked on FPS, right?
Yep, I'm still clicking on it. Right. FPS, right?
Yes, sir.
Now you can do them all, but I'm suggesting a certain order because the beginner code gets you into like an area that you guys are quite not ready for yet. You will be. So before you click on Creator Kit, click on View Tutorial. And the reason why I want you to do that is it comes up with this screen. And this screen is like a help you get started screen. Okay. And there's only one premium area in here, which don't worry about that. I can take you through all the things you need to know in here without going through that. So,
Wait, so how do we download it?
how do you download what? Which?
The creator kit for FPS.
You should, I'll download another one so you can see me downloading it. So if I click on Creator Kit for Beginner Code, click on Download Project, it'll start downloading.
Oh, that's not an option on mine.
When you
Do
click
you have
on
your Unity editor?
hold on. So if you click on Creator Kit, what happens?
It just says view tutorials. That's the only thing it says.
And is it grayed out the download option?
No. It just says view tutorials.
Why don't you open Unity Editor and then try it?
Okay, 1 second.
And someone else has a Mac. I think Dennis, you have a Mac. Did you have that same issue? He's muted, but we'll figure out what your issue is there. So when you're done talking, please go back on mute. Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna keep talking, and we'll have to figure out why you're. Were you able to download the last tutorial?
It just, like the last tutorial, I just kind of opened it up in the projects, and then that's how I did it.
Got it. Yeah. This is just an easy way to get to the project, but there's other ways to get there. So, but this is one of the easiest ways. So at the end of this, and actually I kind of want you all to follow me doing this, and then at the end of the class, you can try it yourself. So the point of this class is not for you to be trying stuff while I'm teaching, and so you can actually watch me do what I'm doing. It's going to be easier for you. That way you don't have to come back and ask me the same question again. How did I do something? Because you were busy, playing with the thing that, so you get it. So anyway, so I have a couple of these downloaded. I'm gonna launch this one, and you can follow along if you feel like you can, with your own Unity version, or you can just watch and then try it after. I'm fine with either one. Okay, so my Unity is opening up again. I closed it just so you guys can see my process of opening it. It's going to be a second because it takes a little bit of time to load. That the folks that were here that watched the 3D capture part, was that interesting?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's really cool that you can take a scene like in your own house and maybe make your house a video game. That's pretty cool. And I've seen people create like little monster games out of their own house. I think that's pretty awesome, where the zombies kind of come through the doors and the windows and all that stuff, and you're playing like a first-person shooter in your own house. So that's a pretty cool way of using this technology.
Excuse me.
Yep.
It sounded like someone else also had that issue, the same issue that I had.
Let's see if we can solve your problem. Let me look through here. Oh, Jaron. Dennis, you have a Mac too. How did you open the project? Okay, I don't know what the answer is there. What I'll do is I'll open this up on a Mac tomorrow, and I'll switch to a Mac so some of the Mac users can get to see how I do things on a Mac. Oh, he says I had no issue, neither did Lucas. So I think the problem might be related to your Unity editor, and if you had the right version of Unity to open these projects. So again, we could work on it offline. Yep, yeah, it could be that they're updating the editor. It could be that they, you know, that there's some other problem going on. So there's a new version of Unity Editor. I am not going to use that new version only because I'm showing you guys what's going on here. And you gotta really be careful. I said this to someone earlier as we got started. You gotta be really careful with updating versions because sometimes the versions can cause your old projects to not work. Usually when it's a breaking version, they call it a breaking change version. What they'll say is something like, you know, back up your projects because this is not, you know, close to the version you have. So like if you see up here, it says Unity 2019 4.2 F1. This is a safe version to update from your earlier version. If you have a version 4, it's safe to upload this. This thing is called a minor version, right? When it says like 4.2 and 4.1, those are minor versions from 4.
That's the same one I have, so I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to figure it out. We'll see what's going on there. But you should be able to get to just a straight up blank project, right? Because that's what this starts out as, is a blank project. Okay? Yeah, you should be able to get to, this is, what you're looking at here is a blank project with nothing on it. Now the assets are the thing that you won't have because I think there's some artwork in here. Yeah, there's a little bit of artwork in here maybe. So you probably won't have that, but you, import parameters got modified during import. Yeah, that's good, okay. But no worries about that. So you could follow along just on you know, what I'm doing here. You don't have to have like a full on, you know, the actual tutorial. All right, okay. So I'm gonna just keep going on this. And if you wanted to follow along and try this on your own, if you have 2 screens, this is the tutorials right here. I'm actually just gonna follow the tutorial. It's the easiest way of teaching this class. rather than me kind of show you things kind of willy-nilly. All right, so I've downloaded this project, and so I could click on open the project. And you'll see that it says I have no projects here. And then I can save this particular project if I wanted to. So I have, these are my project options of things that I can save to. Here are the assets. Thanks, Dennis. That's pretty cool. So I can go ahead and save this project if I want to right here. So just to show this, I'm going to save my project. I'm going to save the scene, put it on my desktop, and we're going to call it. I'm going to call this FPS. What does FPS stand for? Oh, it needs to be inside the assets folder. Let's take that back.
First person shooter.
There we go. Excellent. All right. So this is my FPS folder. I can save the scene if I want to. I'm not going to, I've done nothing in the scene, so I'm not going to save it. Okay. So if anything ever happened, you want to save your whole project. So this is, I'm going to show you guys how to do that right now. So I want to click on Save Project if anything ever happens. That where I'm like going to walk away for a few minutes, or you know, I'm having some kind of internet issue, then I want to click on Save Project. That way I could be absolutely sure that nothing's broken during the time that I, you know, I'm going to go walk away. If I want to close the project, then I would just click on Exit in this case, and that would actually close the project that I'm working on. If I want to go look at a project, so say I have some projects in here. It looks like I don't have any, but if I wanted to add a project, I can take a look at all the projects I have here in the Learn, in the installs, and all of that. So this one I have downloaded. I clicked on Open. It's opened. So we're good to go there. So now that my project is open and I have a scene, the next thing I want to do is, and this is a scene, by the way, we talked about that a little bit, and how to go around a scene using Alt, or hold down the middle mouse button, and it will, thanks Dennis for that, it will let you drag around the scene. So I'm gonna, let's just, say create a new scene if I want. I think I'm frozen. Can you guys still see me doing anything?
No, I just see your mouse moving.
I can kind of see it, but not like too well. Well, I just see like the mouse moving and then like a couple dots, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mostly see your mouse moving. I see a couple things pop up sometimes, but
I pretty much only see your mouse moving.
All right. Can you see the editor? Is the editor open? Okay,
I
good.
can see your project that's open.
Okay, good. All right. I think I'm just going to restart Unity because I had it open all day yesterday. So let me just drop it and restart it. Sometimes Unity and Blender don't work well with Zoom for whatever reason. It's got a little glitchy thing. So I'm going to reopen it, so give me a second. is opening. While it's opening, I'll go through exactly what I was going to say, which is right now there's a bug in Unity that they might have fixed with this latest version, but you can't click on save project. So I've done all these things. I've opened the project. If I try to click on project file save, then sometimes it'll say you can't save it. And the way to do that to save your project is to click on file close and then keep. And then they'll let you save your project there. Okay, it's opening, so here we go. And as you can see here, I click on file save. In assets, I'm gonna call this file name test, just to make sure it saves something. And there it goes, so it's save test. Just a blank scene. Okay.
I tried using the link that Dennis put in the chat, and then it like pulled up the Unity hub, but nothing ever like came up.
You'd have to import that, so don't even worry about that link. Just try it. Just work with what I'm doing right now, because it's going to be more basic than that. You don't need the assets or anything, because what I want you to do is be able to move around the map and actually add items to the scene. And so we're going to do that ourselves. So you remember, this is the inspector window. This is where all of your details of an object are going to be. This here is your hierarchy window. This is like the parent window of all the items in your game. So all the game objects in a scene will show up here. And down here is the project window where all of your assets are going to live and all of your scripts. Guys, remember that from last time. Okay, up at the top is this toolbar. And you saw me click on it the other day because we clicked on the play button to play the actual game. A lot of other things in here. This is I call it the grabby tool, so you can grab assets with this one. Select this is called the select tool. This is your move tool, rotate, transform. This is a new one for us. If you click on it, or if you mouse over it, should tell you this is a rectangle tool. And move, rotate, and scale. This is a new tool for us that we haven't used yet. And then custom editor tools, we'll get into that, I think week 3 or something like that. If you're trying to like center something, there's your centering tool. And if you're trying to just rotate an object, that's your rotation tool. Toggle grid, snapping on and off. We won't worry about that yet, but we'll get into that. The main buttons that we're looking at up here are play, pause, and step. Step is to step through. Once you're playing, you can click on step and it'll take you to the next step. Okay, so when you're like testing out a game, that's when you want to use step. Go ahead, question?
My update wants me to update from 2F1 to 3F1 for the 2019.4 edition.
Okay, do that. Okay, so, and we talked about navigating with the mouse already, so that's great. And then, so now what we're gonna do is try this particular game. We're gonna see if this game works as intended. So it says in the project window, navigate to assets, create kit, and scenes folder. So I'm gonna do that. So I'm down, this is the project window.
I see your mouse moving, so I'm gonna leave and rejoin since it's not working for me.
Okay, I'm recording too, so if you need the recording later on, let me know. Can everyone else see the actual Unity editor?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Okay, good enough. Okay, if it's one person's problem, unfortunately, you can't help. Okay, scenes folder. So I'm going to go in the scenes folder, and there's scenes folder, and there's an example scene. So I'm going to double click that. If I do that, what's going to happen is it's going to place the example scene in the main window here, which is the scene window, right? So you can guess, what can I do here? I can edit this. I can also try to play what's here, right? So we're going to do that. So I'm going to click on play. And now we're in this first-person shooter, of which I can look around and look like I can shoot. All right, so if I want to move around, in this case, they've assigned, can I mute audio for the game? Yeah, hold on a second. Let me stop it. The audio is annoying. I can definitely mute the audio. Yeah. It's camera. There it is. That's it's when it's off. I don't know exactly.
Dennis said it was top right when you play the scene. That's what Dennis said.
Yeah, but it doesn't let me mute it. It doesn't let me mute it when I'm playing the game. That's what I'm trying to do. All right, yeah. So you have to be out of the game for that to work. All right, so there is that. So it says destroy the germ medicine by clicking the mouse button where you have aim. So I think the purpose of this game is to actually destroy this little part right here. I'm not gonna. Maybe that's what they want me to destroy, or oh, this guy. All right, so he's dead. All right, so that was the game being played. So and when you're in the editor, if you want to escape any game that you created, you can click on escape. Okay. I could decide to change the settings for this particular game. So if I wanted to, you know, I can change the keys that I'm playing with. Right now I'm playing with WASD. If I wanted to, I can change that to whatever keys I want. So I can change the, so if I click on edit and then click on project settings, and from there, I want to click on input, manager, axis, and so I can change any of the settings that I want to change in here. I'm not going to change any of them, but you can see how to do that. So here's menu, is the escape key. I can change this to something else. So if I wanted to, you know, I can change this to whatever I want. So let's say, let's change the negative button to left. And we're going to change the alt negative button to A and the positive button to D. And then, so that's cool. And then, so let's change the, let's see, vertical. Negative button, let's change that to, sorry, S and W and down and up. So there we go. Okay, so now you can see here, this input manager, its purpose, how did I get there? I'll start over. So I clicked on edit, project settings, which is only going to edit this particular project, not any other ones that you do in the future. So I could do a lot of things in here. So the inputs, the size of them, the, you know, what firing, you know, how do I fire which mouse button, you know, all of these things. And you'll get to know this quite a bit. Right now, this is just an introduction, so don't feel like you need to know every little thing in here, because I don't know them all. But you can see, if I wanted to, you know, I could have changed the volume for the game right here. I could have turned it off. I could disable Unity Audio right here as well. And, you know, the speaker mode in the game on mono, stereo, sample rates and all that. Okay, does that answer that? Okay. Awesome. So we actually just completed step 1 of that tutorial. So we're going to continue on to the next step. And if you want to follow along again, what I'm doing is right here. There's no magic to this. I'm following the tutorial exactly. But I'm giving a little bit more explanation as to what things are rather than just a tutorial, which is good, but it doesn't have all the explanation. So here, this is this first-person shooter kit. Right, so I'm in a first-person shooter. I can create a new scene. I can create a new empty scene, and I can go into the game database. We're going to create a new scene. I'm going to call this whatever.
Fun.
Fun scene. All right, sure. Fun. As you see on the bottom here, fun scene shows up down the bottom. And this is creating a new scene from my existing scene. So what that means is it's taking the thing that I already did in this example scene and creating a new copy of it. So it's just basically making a copy. Another way to do that is to copy. But don't worry about that today. But so I'm in the fun scene, and to be sure that I'm in the fun scene, you probably want to go over and take a look to make sure you're in there. And I am, because it says an inspector, I'm in fun. Okay. If you make a copy of a scene and think that you're working off the copy and you're actually working off the main, then you'll probably be unhappy with that. Okay, so let's add some stuff to this. Let's add some moving targets. Let's add some stuff that you can do here. So in my targets folder, which I have in prefabs, if we recall from yesterday, I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. By the way, all the windows are movable and deletable, and you can bring them all back. And we're gonna talk about that shortly. But if I want to, I can even rename some of this stuff. So I'm gonna go into targets. And I have here 2 targets. I have this blood cell and germ slime. Awesome. So I'm gonna drag the germ slime into the window. First, I'm gonna like get a little closer and drag the germ slime into the window. There it is, in the window. Okay. Once I drag the germ slime in the window, does anybody remember how I can move it, reposition it?
You can either click on it in the project, or no, not the project, the hierarchy, or you can click on it in the actual scene.
Yes, you can click on the scene, but how do you move?
You hit the move button in the top left.
Okay, yeah, so this is the move button, or you can click the W key. I work with shortcuts a lot. I'm not showing you them mostly because I want you to understand how to click where you want to be. But if you become a game developer, you're really going to want to learn the shortcuts, because then you can stay focused on this area without having to like go back and forth up here, and kind of gets annoying after a while, especially if you're working in Blender, because Blender, building an actual 3D model is usually a series of dragging and resizing and adding shapes. And you wouldn't want to go like drag, add a shape, move, add a shape. Like that would just take too long. If you were in my robotics class, I did the same thing with Fusion 360. All the things that I created there are using shortcuts. And I usually change my shortcut so that it matches what's in some other, some other editor that I like the most. So here, we're gonna drag it up and down. You can see that you can drag. If you drag below the what we call this, the plane or the plate, if you drag below that plate, then what's gonna happen is your object is going to go like transparent. And that just means it's on the underside of this plane, right? And it means it won't be visible to your the person playing your game. So if you ever played a game where it like glitched and you got shot or something like that, and you couldn't see what was shooting you, it's typically because the rendering engine didn't know where to place it on the plane, and it placed it down here. That usually happens in multiplayer games where people are streaming and one person is like high up, but the game thinks it's like down low because the stream rate is too slow. And that's what happens is you're getting shot, but the person is like not visible to you. Used to happen all the time in World of Warcraft. Okay, so remember how to move around. I'm not gonna drain this. You move this way if you wanna move that way. Blue takes you that way, green takes you up. So just like you can see here, these are the planes, and we're moving in 3 dimensions, X, Y, and Z. There are some games that you can create that are 2-dimensional, and you can only move in 2 of the axes, X, Y, and Z axis, only 2 of them. And so you want to just be sure where you're moving, if you're moving in the right axis. So if I want my thing to sit right here on the ground, great, but it's slime, so I'm gonna make it sit in the middle of air. Okay, once you have saved, once you put it where you want, and that could be anywhere, you're gonna click on save. So now we're gonna start using shortcuts. And just for your life, there's like a bunch of shortcuts you should know. If you're on a Mac, Command S is what? Does anybody know?
Save.
Save, yeah. On Windows, what's Control C?
Copy.
Copy.
Copy. What's Control Z?
Go back.
What's Control Y?
Before redo.
Go forward. Yeah. So these are things that you should know, just so you know. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna click Control S, and you guys on Mac can click Command S. And now we're gonna play the game. Oh, there it is. There's my little deal. And I shot him and it's destroyed. Now, it only destroyed because the properties of the target were already set. So you'll find that being a game developer is cool, but is tedious. So you have to always remember to like make sure things can interact with each other, and make sure that what they call basically the size of the health points is a number that makes sense. So here, if I'm looking at my object, my slime, it has a health value 3 and a point value 5, and the destroyed effect is goop spray. So it's going to spray goop everywhere, and then when it gets hit, or when it hits the player, it's going to make a sound. Okay. And these are other things about the object here. So I'm looking at the center point, X, Y, and Z. So basically where it's located, how big it is, and where it's currently facing. This is the x-axis is where it's facing. So I can switch it to the other axis, and if I play the game, you'll see that it's like facing in another direction, right? If you want anything to change, you have to click on save, which I didn't do, by the way, which is why I was facing in the wrong direction. But now I just did that and it saved.
Only if all FPSs were that easy.
Yeah, unfortunately. Okay, so those are the kind of components that we should be paying attention to. We're looking at, looks like we lost Siri, got back. So we looked at these kind of ideals, but you hit on something very interesting. I think that was you, Braden. What if we change this to 200? Would you expect that it would take longer to destroy this thing? I'll answer the question. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to click on this. I'm going to aim at this dude again. Oh, whoa, whoa. I'm shooting, he's not dying. This thing is like, whoa. So I'm shooting as much as I can, and he's not going down. Right, so this is going to be this is like a boss in the game, right? So I don't think we need it to be that much, but maybe 10. Okay, so yes, I can change the point value there, okay? Let's add some more targets. So now I'm going to add some art, models, and characters. So here are some more characters that I can add. Let's add the germ spike. We're going to follow along the exact tutorial, but you don't have to follow this exactly. And now if I'm not exactly sure if I want to add this, there's an asset version and there's also this model version. I'm going to add the asset version, but if I don't want to click and drag because I'm trying to figure out what something is, I'll look at it here in the inspector before I drag it onto my scene. You might hear me call it canvas because another editor they call it canvas, but just remember I'm meaning scene. Okay. Okay, did I drag the wrong one? Germ slime. Delete. Germ Bob. Delete. What is going on? Germ Bob. Whatever. I'll figure that out later. I want to do that with you guys on the phone. So there's my germ spike. It's on my scene. So what we're going to do with this one is, my Zoom isn't responding. Thank you. All right. What we're going to do with this one is we're going to transform this. And if you guys remember what transform is, it's going to allow you to change its rotational properties, its position, its scale. So if I click on this little guy here, I can do individual components, but if I click on this, then it's going to do all of them. And then if I go over here to transform, I can just type in and do exactly what I want to do. I usually use this, almost never just drag and drop unless I'm like initially placing something. Okay, so we're going to add a component to this. We're going to add something called a rigid body. So we're going to get into some terminology that will be slightly new for a lot of you. Don't worry about the terminology. just know that I'm going to explain it at some point. So if you hear something that sounds weird, you're like, oh, what is that? Don't even worry about it. I'm gonna help you out here. So in this case, gravity, we all know what gravity is. I'm not gonna explain that. What is, for bonus points, the gravity on Earth at sea level?
It's isn't it measured in like foot pounds or something? Or not foot pounds, meters a second?
There you go. Dennis got you 9.81 meters per second squared. Yes, it's in meters per second squared for us, but you can measure it in other measurements, but for our purposes, this is what it is. It's what keeps you on the ground. All right, so we're turning gravity off, right? And I'm gonna use something called is kinematic. Anybody know what kinematics is? This is probably foundational to this class, so somebody besides Dennis, because I know you know all the answers. Oh, you don't know what kinematics is, Dennis? All right, I expect you to know that one.
I've heard of it, but I just don't know what it is.
Well, Braden, if you were paying attention in the robotics class, we talked about kinematics.
Oh, I must have forgot then.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so kinematics is motion at its simplest form. It just means the kind of motion. So when you think about like a game, your player, your objects can do certain kinds of things, right? It's not just static. It's not just sitting around. So the kinematics is the study of and practice of motion. So if you become an engineer, we talk about in mechanical engineering, you talk about kinematics in physics class and in a lot of your mechanical classes. If you're become a robotics engineer like me, then it's really, really important because like you can create a robotics arm and you have to plan its motion and you use kinematics to plan its motion. So think about like, if you guys have like a Roomba vacuum or something like that, when it rolls around on the floor, it's moving around, it needs to plan which way it's going. Same thing in a game. If your game elements are moving around or waving their arms or moving their legs or any of that stuff, you have to plan that activity. Now you don't have to do it for every game character. What you can do is write some code that says what kind of motions this thing performs, and then in a 3D game, rig it accordingly. So we're going to get to all that. Just don't even worry about the terminology. Just trust me, okay? And the fact that I clicked on turned off use gravity means that this is going to float. Okay. All right, we're gonna drop in one more component, and this is and here you want to type components. There's so many of them. You won't know the names of all these today. In about 2 years of writing games, you'll figure out most of the names here. So this is called a collider. Now, why you need that is because this thing, while it has mass, like this thing has a dimension and a shape, you have to tell the game that you can hit this with something. Does that make sense? That's called a collider. Awesome. There is a box collider. Somebody asked me that. Yep. Yep. There's custom colliders as well. So here, I've created a collider. I want to make sure that it can actually collide, hit something, right? So I have the radius here set of my sphere collider. It's in there. It's hard to see, but it does show up right there. That's that circle. And if missed something, 1 second. Yes. So yeah, sometimes this is called a hitbox. I forgot to mention that, or hit zone, or something like that. So so we're gonna put this into its appropriate place. So I'm gonna call this one. I'm gonna put it there, and then make sure it's centered inside of this zone here. So if I aim here with something, it will collide. In other words, it will hit this thing. Everybody good with that? Okay, so now we get to some kind of interesting things that you can do with Unity in this kind of thing. So there's this word here, it's blue. Whenever you see something blue in Unity, it means that you can interact with it differently than you would. In other words, it's clickable, like a link. Just like over here, these have subtopics. So you can click it and something happens. Same thing in Unity. So if you see like here, use gravity, I can click that, and it will highlight this box. And if I wanted to, I can select my space bar and click and unclick. See, my mouse is way over here, but I was able to do that by doing that. Same thing I'm doing here with radius. I can change the radius of the hitbox just by dragging left and right. And I can make the radius really small, like if I wanted to, and I wanted to make zones on this thing, like you know, say like hitting it in the head was worth more than hitting it in the stomach, or hitting it in the leg, if it has legs or wings or whatever it might be. Like you can make different hit zones or hit boxes or sphere colliders or any kinds of collider. You can put many of them on there. So if you're making a spaceship game, you can put a bunch of colliders on the spaceship, and say hitting it in the nuclear reactor, or whatever the reactor name was in Star Wars, will blow the whole thing up. But if you hit anywhere else, it's minimal damage. You can do that. Okay, so we're gonna make the radius 5, just like it says. Oops, sorry about that. So the radius is 5 for, that's too big, 0.5. There we go. So that's a decent collider right there. And I'm gonna try to just get through this last little tutorial, so bear with me if we go a couple minutes over. So then we want to add another component, and I'm going to call this one target. So what does target mean? Target means that it's something that will give you point value in the game. So not everything that you add to a game is going to be something that gives you points. Like, I don't know if you ever played like some other games where you can like karate chop things for a while and nothing happens, you're not getting any points. But there's certain characters in the game that you hit and they actually give you points. Okay, so we did a lot. Let's add maybe one more thing. Let's add some sound since we're in here, and I'm probably gonna go over like a minute or two. All right, so sound's a little different. So if I'm in this hierarchy window and I'm looking at that germ spike here, and this is the germ spike model. If I click on the hit player and idle player, what these things are basically events. What happens when if you hit the player, we wanted to make a noise. So when I clicked on hit player, you can see on the right here, it opened up the inspector window, and now it has the sound. You know, I can have sound available for hitting a player. I can transform it. I can make it smaller. I can make it bigger. So as I hit it, it gets bigger. you know, so those are things that you can do. All right. So in our case, we're going to drag the hit player object from the hierarchy menu to the hit player field on the target. So here's the hit player. Actually, I'm going to go back there for a second. I'm just going to drag it. And you can see here that it's going to be added now to the audio there. There's another way to do it. That's the way I normally do it. I actually don't do that this way, but it's fine. And then idle, I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, so now that we've done this, and I'm going to click on save, and I'm going to go 1 more minute, I can create the same little thing over and over and over again by going to prefab and creating a new prefab version of this. So prefab is just prefabricated. So I made this object by hand. It took a long time, like countless hours. I want to be able to just use it again without having to drag and create and hit audio and make colliders and all that mess. So we're going to create prefab in the next one. So I'm in the project window. I'm looking down here. I see prefab. There it is. I can, oh, things aren't clicking like they should be. We might need to stop it here because my stuff is getting slow. Okay, so here I am. I am in prefabs. There isn't a prefab for this item yet, so I'm going to put one in there. I thought I had one, but maybe I don't. UI targets. I do. There it is. Okay, so I'm going to create another prefab for this one. So how do I do that? I just grab this germ spike and I just drag it straight into prefab. And it's going to ask me if I want original or create a variant. So I want the original. And so now germ spike is going to be in my prefab. Okay, so now I can add this 1,000,000 times to my scene. So I can put them all over the place. And here's another one, here's another one, here's another one. Okay, so we went a little over today. I'm going to ask if anybody has any questions. And oh, by the way, I'm going to save this. And I'm asking anyone who has any questions about this particular topic. And there's a lot of things on the scene we haven't showed yet. We haven't talked about perspective or the camera or the sun light object. So there's a bunch of stuff to keep going on this. But any questions? How did I open the inspector? Well, the inspector is always open. Do you mean, how do I open the inspector for this germ spike? You can come off mute and ask your question because I want to make sure I get it right for you. Holden, I believe.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm clicking on the stuff on my hierarchy and the inspector just isn't opening.
So you did something like, did you click on it from, so like if I click on my germ spike here, it doesn't change? You see how mine's changing?
Yeah, like my inspector just isn't there.
Oh, if it's not there. So your inspector can go away and come back. So if you have it set to normal, then it's always going to be there. But you can close it and then reopen it back. So with all these things, I was going to actually talk about this tomorrow. But with all these things, you can find anything that you're missing, any of your windows, any windows that you want to find by using Windows. Showing here. And there's also a shortcut for inspector. And do I know what that is offhand? I know what it is in Blender. Let me see if I can do it in, what is the shortcut? Let's see if I close that. Yeah. So do you have the ellipse?
Maybe. Yeah,
so,
I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
so click on Add tab, Inspector.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, now you're gonna get gigantic inspector, which then from there I would make sure it's set to normal. And
if we don't have any more questions, we can go, right?
absolutely.
All right, bye.
All right, bye-bye. So it adds the inspector back into this like tab, but then you can drag it back over to the corner. And then what I normally do is I lock it. And it won't let me lock it, but I normally lock it. Lock.
Yeah, got it. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Any other questions? All right. Well, I had a great time with you today. I'm going to post this video because none of you guys were actually on the camera view. And someone asked me, how do I get the recording? Send me an email. That's the answer to that. And this particular recording, I'm going to post it on Tinker Academy on Facebook. So if you have any problems with that, and you don't want your voice heard, then let me know and I won't post it. But because no one's face showed up, and the chat and all of that wasn't in the video, I think it's reasonably okay. But if you think your parents might have a problem with that, let me know. But otherwise, I'll just post this one in Facebook, so that other people that are trying to join the class get some understanding of what it's like. Okay, any questions, anybody? Awesome, see you next time.